Welcome to Lecture 8 of Module 1, File Size and Resolution. All right, this can be one of the most confusing things when you're starting to work with digital media. There are a few ways in which we can describe file size. One is the actual pixel dimensions of an image, and the other is how much disk space that file occupies on your hard drive. All right? When you're trying to communicate file size, just be mindful of what it is you're trying to communicate. All right? All right, the next big thing as far as I'm concerned, and for the life of me I can't figure out why people can't get this straight. I guess what I'm talking about is resolution, and there are two common acronyms that are used to describe resolution. We've all heard of them, PPI and DPI. The first one stands for pixels per inch and is directly related to the digital file itself. How many pixels do we have going across and how many pixels do we have going down? That's pixels per inch. All right. Screen resolution has typically 72 pixels per inch, and if you're sending something off to a photo lab or if you're printing on a Canon or HP inkjet printer, you'll have 300 pixels per inch. You can also do that with Epsons as well, but Epson allows you to go much, much higher if you want to. All right, the second one stands for dots per inch, or DPI, and is directly related to the printing device. All right, an image cannot have DPI. All right, and a print cannot have PPI. They're just two different technologies, it's like apples and oranges. All right, so please, when you're discussing and talking about resolution, all right, please make sure that you get those two terms correct. All right, so now if you want to know the size of your file, all right, then all you really have to do is find out the height and width in pixels and divide that by the resolution, and that will tell you how large this guy will print out at. All right, so if you have an image that is 1200 pixels by 1800 pixels, and if you divide that by 300 pixels per inch, 12 divided by 3 is 4, 18 divided by 3 is 6, and if you have a 1200 by 1800 pixel dimension file that is 300 pixels per inch, you'll end up with a 4x6 print from your local lab. All right. Now, what I want to do right now is just demonstrate a few things about file size and resolution. Now, in order to find out the actual size of our image in pixel dimensions, we could come down to the bottom of our document where we see some text and a little right-pointing white arrow, and I can just come from the contextual menu and choose Document Dimensions. And then you can see that we have this at 240. So this guy is sitting at 240 pixels per inch, not the 300. This is typically what we get out of our camera, and I've just left it at that. All right. So now I'm just going to go back to the document profile or size. Let's go with size, and you can see that it's 4.3 megs. All right. Now, to find out the actual dimensions of your image, we can go under Image and go down to the option Image Size. Not canvas size, but image size. All right. So now inside the Image Size dialog box, we have the width and the height in pixel dimensions right here. We can also change that to percentage. All right. But it's not what I want to talk about right now. What I want to talk about is document size. All right, and document size has to do with how large those pixels will be printed. All right, it has nothing to do with the physical dimensions of the image. It only has to do with, so instead of saying document size, it should say document if printed size. All right, or print size, something other than just document size. But anyways, that's why I'm here. I'm trying to explain this stuff to you. All right, down below we have scale styles, constraint proportions, and resample image. Now, first of all, the resample image, The option in here is bicubic automatic, and remember we saw that in the preferences in an earlier lecture, and I decided to leave it there. But if I wanted to, and if I found that most of the things I do are reducing from the original size, then I would set it in my preferences to have the reduction option turned on. All right, I believe in the 80-20 scenario. Whatever you do 80% of the time, set Photoshop up to do that, and then only 20% of the time you have to come in and make a modification, as opposed to going the other direction. All right, so it might take you a while to figure out which one of these would be the best one for you to go into the preferences and change it to. Until then, just leave it on automatic. Okay, so now scale styles. We haven't talked about styles, but if you are applying any styles to your image, and you're now going to either make your image smaller or make your image larger, you will want those styles to scale proportionately to whatever you're doing, whether you go higher or lower in physical dimensions. All right. The constrained proportions just means that whatever you do to your width, you'll have a similar thing going on with your height. So if I was to increase this by X amount, then this will go in proportion and size itself, so I don't distort the pixels. All right. Now, the last checkbox here, which is your resample, this is just your method of resampling, but to resample means that if I were to increase this to 300 pixels per inch, all right, I want you to watch the file size up here and the dimensions. These are easy to remember, 1000 by 1504. And if I set this up to go up to 300 pixels per inch, you can now see that I've added 60 pixels per inch in both the height and the width. And I've gone from 4.3 megabytes to 6.72 megabytes. All right, I've added 250 here, and the aspect ratio, proportionally, whatever you want to call it, got added to the height. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that back down to 240. Now, if I decided not to resample, right, not to add or subtract pixels based on resolution, if I did this, now I can come in and I can change my resolution. I will not change the physical dimensions of my image, and I can alter the size that these pixels get printed at, which will ultimately determine the physical dimension of this guy. If I now come in and type this at 300, you'll see now I have a much smaller file. If I put this at 200, you can see now I have a 5 by 7.5 at 200 pixels per inch. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cancel out of this. All right, but I don't want to leave the dialog box. So here's a trick, all right, or a tip. All right, if you have any dialog boxes open that have an OK and cancel button in them, if you hold down the Option key on the Mac or Alt key on the PC and you hold that down, you'll change your cancel button to a reset. This should reset everything back to what it was when I first opened up the dialog box, and then I can carry on and make some other changes. As opposed to closing the dialog box only to open it up again to get back in here. So don't forget that it's the Option or Alt key will change your cancel button to a reset button. All right. Okay. So again, this is your pixel dimensions, height and width. This is your document size that will be printed, and resolution only means how big will those pixels be printed. Okay, so I am going to cancel out of this dialog box, and I just want to show you a couple other things dealing with resolution. Okay, so in order for me to make this example a little bit clearer, what I'm going to do is need a second image. So rather than open up another image, I'm just going to make a duplicate of this guy by going under the Image menu and choosing Duplicate. Automatically allows me to have the same name with the word copy appended to it. I'm going to click OK, and we have this guy. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to resize this down to its size right here. In order to make this a visible document when I do my little exercise here, I need to make this guy visually different. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come in and change this to grayscale. All right, and then I'm going to put it back into RGB so that I don't get any of those profile mismatch things that tells me that, oh, I'm taking a grayscale image and throwing it into an RGB document and all that kind of stuff. So I just want them to be visually the same. Okay, so now that I have a black and white version and this guy, I want to show you a couple things. When we drag and we drop one image into another one, all right, and notice where I'm going to grab. I'm going to grab at the bottom of the S in St. Catharines and the sign here. I'm going to click, hold, and drag, and I'm going to release it right down here. And I get this because of the color profile. Oh my God, look at all those things. Anyways, there you go. And if you take a look, the S has been placed, all right, right here. That is where I release the mouse. Okay, so now what I want to do is undo this. And I want to show you that when you're dragging and dropping one image into another one, if you want the image you're dragging to be pin registered to the one that you're dragging into, in this case here, the grayscale image, over to here. And if I let go at this point, you can see where the lines are. That'll show you where it's going to get placed. If I hold down the Shift key and then release the mouse, after I go through this stuff, you'll see that the image is now pin registered. If I go over to the layers panel and just click on the eyeball for the grayscale version sitting on top, you can see that there is no difference. All right, they are absolutely pin registered. Okay, so I want to get rid of that layer, so I'm just going to hit the delete key, and now I want to come over here and show you something else. All right, okay. So the first thing that I want to do, first of all, I want to check something. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to go under Edit, and I'm going to choose Convert to Profile, just so I can see. Or actually, I can come down here and come into Document Profile, and this is ProPhoto, and I'm going to come down here and go to Document Profile and see that this is Adobe RGB. All right, this one's also 8-bit, this is 8-bit, so I guess we're good with that. Let's see, why don't I convert this guy from ProPhoto, or why don't I convert this guy to ProPhoto? So convert profile, and destination space, I'm going to choose ProPhoto and click OK. All right, so now when I drag and drop, at least I won't get that dialog box popping up. All right, so now resolution, and we know that both of these guys have the exact same resolution, right? Okay, so now if I had a resolution, a document that had a resolution that is less than the one that I'm dragging to, and in this case I'm just going to go image size, and I am going to change the resolution. All right, and I'm going to set the resolution to half of this. All right, so I'm just going to go 120. All right, and I'm going to click OK. Notice that because I am resampling, I have made the pixel dimensions smaller. There you go. All right, so now here's the confusing thing. All right, I'm at 50% and I'm at 50%, and this should not be any surprise that when I click, hold, and drag this in, hold the Shift key down to put it in the center, that's what I get, that size. Should be no surprise whatsoever. All right, I'm going to undo that. But if you have a document that has a different resolution and you're not aware that it has a different resolution because you are viewing this at 100%, and you're not paying attention that this one is being viewed at 50%, they look like they're the same size. Yes, absolutely. If I click, hold, and drag this and hold down the Shift key, voila, it adjusts its resolution based on where it's going. All right, I'm going to undo that, and then we're going to go back the other way. All right, and if I were to click, hold, and drag this guy over here, it is much larger. All right, so the resolution will be a little bit of a tricky wicket for you to try to understand. All right, hopefully it won't be that difficult for you, but the only thing I can say is try it, allow it to make sense to you. When you do these different things, whether you're just dragging, dropping, you're coming in under the image size dialog box, and you're playing around with this guy here and these different options that are available in here, have a notepad and a pen or pencil around and play this little game. When I do this, what happened? And write down what happened. All right? Okay, there you go. I hope this doesn't confuse you too much, and I hope it actually does open your eyes to a little bit more about image size and resolution. And this concludes, all right, the last lecture in Module 1 of this series. Thanks for joining me.